Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at the long-awaited entry into the Ceres range from Thermaltake. This is the Thermaltake Ceres 300 Snow Edition. It's under £100, lots of flexibility, plenty of features. Is it the right case for you? Keep watching to find out. Okay, so in today's video we're taking a look at the Ceres 300. This is a slightly smaller version of its bigger brother, the Ceres 500, which we reviewed a little while back, which you can check out, and actually you can see in the background here of the video. So this is the smaller version of it. Now, just because it's slightly smaller in terms of its physical dimensions, doesn't mean it isn't still a cracking case and has an absolute ton of flexibility, loads of options, and could be just the right case for you if you want to use an extended ATX motherboard or even a normal ATX motherboard, but you don't want a huge great tower. This may fit the bill. It's got some fantastic features such as immense cooling. 55% of this thing is perforated, so airflow is never going to be a problem. And also the fact they include some really stunning ARGB fans included straight out of the box. So you get two CT140s ARGB, and in the back there's also a CT140 non-RGB. Those, if you look at them on their own, rough retail price, somewhere in the region of about £40 worth of fans included straight off the bat, and the case itself retails for £89.99, including free shipping at the moment from scan.co.uk. So if you're watching this video on release day, you'll be able to pick this up for £89, no more, included postage, and that is next day as well. So fantastic deals. Obviously, for those of you that are watching a little bit later on, I will put some links in the video description for Amazon and other places such as eBay. So if you do want to pick up one of these, of which I certainly suggest you do, it may be worth looking at those links to see what the best prices are. So in today's video, I'm going to go through, do a relatively quick teardown of this, go through some of the features, and then I'm actually going to be transferring everything from that PC into this PC, and this will be the new daily driver for the stream PC, at least for the foreseeable, depending on how well it goes, which, to be honest with you, the build process in the Ceres 500 was absolutely flawless, and I can't imagine this being any different. Although, there are some issues which you may want to take notice of, and potentially if you're using certain components, that may actually be something which is going to be a deal breaker for you. Now, one of the deal breakers for me, potentially, is the actual radiator placement. So, because this is a little bit smaller, in this top section, we've now got room for up to a 280mm radiator. Some people do like to use a 360 in that top section, but you are going to be restricted to 280 maximum. You can, of course, put in a 240 should you wish to. If you do have your mind set on a 360mm rad, then you are going to be relegated to this front section. So you could actually, this actually works out really well because you get these two included 140mm fans. They fit absolutely perfectly in this top section for exhausting air. So you can put your 360mm rad in the front, or potentially you can put in three 120mm fans. The choice is down to you, although obviously it does come included with those two 140mm. But radiator placement, 360 in the front, 280s, 240s, etc. No issues whatsoever. So that is the kind of only minor thing, which for some people may be a deal breaker. Some people do really like to have that 360mm rad on the top. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Anyway, with that said, let's get down and actually take this thing apart and see what it's all about. Now, obviously, if you've seen the 500 review, it's very similar indeed, and even down to the kind of perforations on the front and also on the top. The front panel has changed slightly. So previously on the 500, as you can possibly see in the background, the front panel I/O was situated on this side panel. And because the dimensions of this are slightly smaller in actually pretty much all areas, so it's about 2 inches smaller in depth, 2 inches smaller in height, and about an inch less in width. So yeah, it is a bit more compact, and that is why they've moved the I/O to the top section. And the I/O is actually basically identical to what it was on the Ceres 500. So you've got two USB 3.0s, you've got the USB Type-C, which is a great thing to see. You've got your mic and audio jacks, and also power and reset buttons, as you'd expect. The only thing different is rather than being on the side here, they're now on the top, which for a lot of people is the kind of the normal position. Other than that though, the front panel is very similar. So we've still got this really nice accent design. This is absolutely solid metal, very strong indeed. This section is plastic, and then you've got a metal grille in front. To remove this front section, pretty straightforward to do, although it is pretty tough. There is a grab handle on the bottom, so just grab the handle on the bottom and give it a quick yank, and the panel comes off. I've probably edited out that because of shaking the camera, but there you go. So taking a look inside, we've got pretty much the same deal as what we had previously. We've got this really nice mesh filter which works very well. You've got massive holes in there to let air flow, but you've also got the fine filter to restrict dust entry, which is absolutely excellent. With that out of the way, you can now see the two included Thermaltake CT140 ARGB fans. These are great fans, 500 to 1500 RPM rotational speeds, and I'm pretty sure the maximum airflow on these was somewhere around the 77 or 78 CFM, so they do move a ton of air. They are a little bit noisy at the very top end of the RPM range. Realistically, you never need it anywhere more than kind of 5 to 800 RPM. That moves more than enough air. And basically after around about 8 to 900 RPMs, anything more than that, you just increase noise. You don't really get that much more benefit in terms of airflow. There is a slight change also against this between the 500. Previously on the 500, this whole front section was removable, so we had a couple of screws and you could take this out to install your radiators, etc. With this version, it's fully fixed in place, which for some people may make things actually easier because it's fixed, it's captive, you just attach your stuff to it. Again, options, 3 120mm fans in there or 2 140s, radiators, etc, etc. When it comes to filtration, this case has got filters up the wazoo, it really has. And the same as before, if you want to remove the bottom filter, there's a little tab at the bottom here, so you can just pull that and remove it. And this does reveal a full-length filter, runs front to back. And again, it's that nylon mesh, so really good for letting air through, but it does restrict dust entry. So let's move around to the side section. So as you can see, tempered glass side panel, 4mm tempered glass with a nice surround as well to obviously block out greasy fingerprints, that kind of stuff. That is removable pretty easily. You've got 2 thumb screws on the back. This is something which is a little bit different from the previous one because we did have that swing out door. I actually prefer the look of this. It looks a little bit cleaner around this section because you've got the handle here. You don't have the handle here because there is no swing out. It is 2 captive screws. So we can just undo those, slide the panel out and take it out of the way. And with the panel out, you can see the absolute amazing amount of room you've got to work in here. This was something I really like about this case, and actually is why it's ended up being on there for so long, because it is really easy to work with, whether you're installing graphics cards, tweaking your fans, etc., or just swapping out bits and pieces. It's really good, very open, and of course you've got all those really nice creature comforts, such as you do have the pass-throughs there, the rubber grommets, only on the top, not on the side. Something I would have liked to have seen, if I'm completely honest with this, is having white grommets on the white case. I think that would have made a lot more sense and would have kind of hidden it a little bit more, but again, it's not the end of the world. Sadly at the bottom, there's no actual grommets on the pass-throughs, but you do have 3 pass-throughs there in really good places, which make a ton of sense, and they are actually quite wide as well, so if you're potentially concerned about maybe not having enough room to poke cables through, again, really easy. Even with a power supply installed, you can still get really good access to your I/O connections, your HD audio, USB 2s, USB 3s, etc. Or maybe down here, other things for fans, radiators, RGB lighting, that kind of thing. Potentially as well, this hole here, you could use for passing through the power cables for your graphics cards, etc. That may be something you want to do. Everything else is really good. You've got a nice bit of height as well. Even though it is slightly smaller than the previous version, we do have a little bit less height at the top here. Not a great deal, but between the motherboard and the top, you've got somewhere in the region of about 40mm. There is a really nice offset as well. So if you're concerned about maybe your radiators touching VRMs, etc., no worries there at all. There's a really decent amount of offset, which we'll take a look at shortly. Other than that, very nice design. Other things, obviously, this is all mesh as well. You can put a vertical mounted GPU in here. There's screw threaded into the metal already for that to go. And if you want to, you can actually install a fan on here, either on the bottom or on the top, to push air into your graphics card. And of course, one of the other things which is a slight bone of contention for me, and that is the front LCD panel, which you can actually install in this removable panel here. So you've got 2 screws there, and then you can install the Thermaltake LCD panel kit in snow or black. So if you go for the black case version, you can get a black version of this, and obviously this is the white one for this. I have used this before. I do like it. It is prohibitively expensive in my opinion. Currently at scan.co.uk, where you can pick up all of this stuff, that is currently £109.99. The case itself is £89.99. It's using the same metal. It's got an LCD panel. I do not understand for the life of me how Thermaltake can justify charging £109 for a teeny tiny 2-inch TFT panel. I really don't understand it. For me personally, I think it is a ridiculous amount of money. and I would love for them to be able to do it for, I don't know, something a bit more sensible. 30 to 40 pounds, I think, is the most people would be likely to pay for that. It is really good, and it does show you all the results. It shows you CPU temperature, GPU temperature, speeds of your processor, even the weather if you want to, or even pictures of cats, etc. The choice is really down to you and what your mind can throw up. But realistically, I think it's a little bit too expensive, and probably going to be one of those things which will eventually come down in price so that you can actually start selling them. It is an option should you wish for it. Although saying that, I think actually without it, it looks really nice, really clean, really nice, clean, bright white, as you can see there. If we take out this panel, you can see it's a very easy thing to do if you want to make any adjustments. So if you want to do something with your power supply, perhaps, maybe you need to add in some more cables for something else. Maybe you're adding a new graphics card and you're trying to install your new 12-volt high power connection for your power supply. You don't have to kind of go down the back and take everything apart. You can literally just pull this out, remove that panel, and you've got access to your basement and also to your power supply. Plug in your new cable, route it through. If, like me, you've got your PC against the wall or something, it's actually hard work to try and move it around, take the back panel off, get into your power supply, etc. So yeah, I really like that section. The only other thing as well is this bit here is actually ventilated as well. I'm not entirely sure why they ventilated this, but I guess more ventilation is generally seen as a good thing. 2 thumb screws on there, you can remove this panel, and as with pretty much everything on here that has holes, you do have this mesh filter in there as well, so that's very good to keep the dust bunnies out. Some of the Thermaltake power supplies do actually have ventilation on the sides, and actually some of the other high-end power supplies on the market do have side ventilation as well. Not only do they have an intake fan, they also have ventilation, so again, it's going to allow your power supply to breathe a little bit more and not get loads of dust. Also, I should point out, graphics card wise, if you're not putting a radiator in this front section, up to 370mm in terms of graphics cards, if you're installing a radiator, 280, 360, etc., you're going to be limited to about 340mm for your graphics card, which is more than enough for most people. CPU clearance, so if you're going air cooling in this, up to 185mm, which I think was exactly the same as it was with the 500. So basically any CPU tower cooler on the market fits in very easily and will have a ton of extra room as well. So if you don't want to have it smashed up against the glass, it's going to be absolutely fine. Fans again, so you've got the 2 included 140s at the front. There is the single Thermaltake non-RGB CT140 in the back. Again, same rotational speed, same profile characteristics, etc. All daisy chainable as well. If you've not seen the videos, I strongly suggest you check those out if you're interested in these fans. They're actually pretty cost effective. The 2 CT140s, I think at the moment on scan, are somewhere in the region of about 25 to 30 pounds. So actually probably worth looking at if you're into fans and you want some decent cooling and some decent RGB. If you go for the non-RGB ones, you're looking, I think, about £22 for a pack of 2. Again, links will be in the video description for that. Other than that, yeah, it's all good. Nothing to complain about here. You've also got a big cutout section to gain access to the back of your CPU section for coolers, etc. The actual back panel, all removable plates. Those, unfortunately, again, because on this, they've gone for that kind of, I'm not sure what look they've gone for. You've got obviously black and white. I would have liked to have seen these to be white to match with the rest of the case. Again, with those rubber grommets, those would have been nice to have in white as well. When it comes to the power supply, nice and easy to get to. Power supplies up to 220mm, easily in there, because there's no actual hard drive trays in the bottom, which is something which they've kind of negated on this. So you don't have any hard drive trays actually in the bottom. You do have an option for mounting a 140 or a 120mm fan. So we'll spin that back around. We'll see this later when we look at the bottom, but just in here, you can put another fan in there. So if you've got intake there, more intake there, yeah, plenty of air blowing around inside. Something they've done as well, which is also on the Ceres 500, which I think is actually unique to Thermaltake in this particular design, is you can actually rotate this back panel. So if you want to go for a vertical mounted GPU, obviously they don't include the PCI Express cable. To do that, you will need to purchase that separately, but you can just undo 4 screws, take this section out, hook it round, turn it upside down or 90 degrees if you wanted to do that, which is excellent. And it's all well ventilated, as is everything on here pretty much. Here we've got the mount section for 140mm fan, again included CT140 fan. You can, if you want to, put 120s in there should you wish to. Again, choice is entirely up to you. I/O section there, all nicely done. No real problems there. It is what it is. Also, to remove the back panel, 3 screws. I like the fact they've got 3 screws there. A lot of these back panels, because they are just a sheet of metal, they do have the tendency to vibrate or to move or flex. having 3 mounting screws just keeps it all nice and taut. As you can see, like we said before, pretty much everything is filtered here in terms of intake. So this section here, again, if your power supply has ventilation on it on the sides, you can get some extra cool air into your power supply, which is always a good thing. This is also filtered as well. So there's a removable magnetic filter there, so you can take that out, clean it, stick it back in, basically the same as the one on the other side. And with that out of the way, you can get a good look inside here. Now something which, again, I keep on saying it, the Ceres 500, Ceres 300, both do really, really well in terms of cable management and actually the room you've got back here. You've got somewhere in the region of about 1 inch of depth here, so cable management is an absolute breeze. I really, really love the fact that the top section here is just a massive cutout. Generally you can't see it from the other side anyway, but for passing through EPS cables, even if you're doing a dual setup, so 2 8-pins, you can pass those through there, absolute piece of cake. If for some reason you're doing your ARGB wiring for your coolers, etc., and you're trying to pass through wires, it's just so open, it makes life so much easier. It's absolutely fantastic. Lots of punch outs and tie down points, and they've also included some Thermaltake wraps there, so that's all good for cable management. They've pre-routed most of it for you. This section here, you've got your ARGB and your PWM wiring for the front 2 CT140 fans. Again, rubber pass-throughs, would have been nice to have been white, but there it is. They have also, because this is potentially going to be housing an EATX motherboard, which if you do that, these are going to be covered up. So they've actually got extra pass-throughs at the front there. So for passing through your main power cables, etc., you probably want modular ones to be able to do that, but you can get them to go through there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. This section here is your hard drive mounting tray. This is a little bit more minimal in my opinion, but is absolutely fine. I think we're starting to get away from those rotational hard disk drives and things like that. So you can put a single 3.5-inch drive on here on this removable plate. It is on a thumb screw, so you can just take that out. So one 3.5-inch drive on there, or you can put 2 SSDs on there, 2.5-inch drives, one there, or spin the drive around that way, whichever you want to do, or just take it out altogether. If you want to put some sort of addressable RGB controller on there, you can stick that on there instead, making use of that space. All well and good. When it comes to the front I/O, we've already discussed that a little bit, but I'll go through it again. So you've got a USB Type-C connector, you've also got your HD audio, got your usual section there for hard drive, LED, reset, power button, etc. 2 USB 3.0s, so that's a dual cable, and yeah, that is HD audio like we said. So yeah, it's all pretty good. Black cables really would have been nice if they were white, but I guess that is being a little bit picky. But you can see now how much physical room there is at the bottom here. So for cable management, even if you've got the largest power supply and it's captive and you've got all your cables, you can stuff them in there, no problems at all. Loads of room. There is a little resting channel there, so the power supply is actually raised up off the deck a little bit, which I've said before, it really helps with acoustics. Normally when you've got a fan in your power supply and it's really like slammed down against the bottom, then you do sometimes get that kind of reverberation, or I can't think what the word is off the top of my head, but you do get that turbulence. That's the word I was looking for, turbulence. So you get a little bit of turbulence where the fan is too close, whereas raising up just a few mil really helps with that acoustics. Loads of room, 220 mil for a power supply, like I said. You can put a fan in the bottom there to get some more airflow in if you wanted to. Potentially, because the holes are pretty open there, you could mount a hard drive on there, but probably not the best of ideas, but potentially you could do if you wanted to. So I think that's pretty much it for that side. Again, they've done a fantastic job. The Velcro ties, etc., pre-installed, etc. Yeah, it's really, really good. On the bottom here, so you can see we've got this removable mesh filter, again, full length. So just slide that out. If you need to clean it, if you're in a particularly dusty environment, stick it under the tap, give it a wash, make sure it's clean, obviously, and dry before you reinsert it. You can see here, we've got option there. So mounting area, 120 or 140 mil fans, if you wanted to. Again, more ventilation, got a power supply section there. Also, there's some punch outs there as well if you want to do some sort of cable management down there. I don't know why you would, but potentially you could do. You've got rubberized feet on there, and also it's raised off the deck about 1 inch. So nice and easy to get airflow in there. Now looking at the top section, this is where things do change a little bit again. So previously on the Ceres 500, you had this big plastic moulding, which was a little bit cumbersome. You've got 2 thumb screws on the back, and then this whole big sections come out, whereas with this, they have simplified the design, and I'm actually glad they have done. There's a really nice perforation on there. So this is actually the filter, and you just lift that up. It's magnetic. Happy days. Again, mesh nylon, works very well. Good airflow, but very good dust trapping properties. And now you can see the actual mesh underneath that. So again, really big holes in there, lots of airflow, potentially either passive or forced, and you've got this really nice offset. So this section here is where your kind of VRMs are going to be, your RAM modules possibly, so they can stick up really high. And you've got the options here for 3 120mm fans, 2 140mm fans, or a 218 rad, 240 rads, etc, etc, or just leave it blank, entirely up to you. Looking at the I/O gain, so that is the I/O panel at the top section rather than being on the side. So yeah, overall pretty decent. I actually like this case a lot. I am slightly concerned, or not concerned, I am slightly aware that not being able to mount a 360mm rad in the top is a little bit of a pain for me personally in terms of what I do here, testing, etc. Especially I've got about 6 or 7 360mm AIOs which are in the sort of test process at the moment, so it would be really nice to be able to use this chassis for that. Again, if you want to, you can just stick them in the front, so that isn't too much of an issue. Some people don't like front mounted 360 AIOs. Again, it's going to be down to the individual, although saying that, most PCs these days, 240mm AIO on the top is going to be absolutely fine. So overall, yeah, I think this is a really nice case, and I'm actually itching to get building in it. So I'm going to stop the video now, transfer all of that into this, and then we'll come back with my final thoughts. Okay, so the build is done, and well, you can see it. It's there, right behind me. And I'll be honest with you, it was basically the same as building in the Ceres 500, which again is really simple to do. I really love the big pass-through at the top for your EPS connector and all those other intricate little ARGB sections. Works really well, and as you can see, it looks very nice. I have put in the Thermaltake LCD panel in there. It's currently showing the time and date. You can, of course, set that to kind of within reason, kind of whatever you want to. I did actually find there is an option you can actually set it to, it will show you a window on your computer. So if you've got something like MSI Center open, you can zoom in on a specific part of MSI Center and display that on the tiny screen, which you're probably seeing for some B-roll. So I had it earlier set to show fan RPM, which could be potentially quite handy. That is if you've got £110 to spare. But overall, build went as expected. The fans do a fantastic job, and as long as you keep them underneath about sort of 800 or 900 RPM, they're basically silent. As you get higher, there is definitely some noise there. That is an unfortunate thing with pretty much all fans these days. You get to a certain point and they will start making noise purely because they're pushing so much air, which is obviously preferable, but there is a noise penalty to go along with that unless you spend literally hundreds of pounds on fans. I am finding the fact of not being able to install a 360mm radiator in that top section is a little bit inconvenient. I would have loved to have seen them maybe add a little bit more length to the case in order to be able to fit a 360 in there, but like I said earlier on, if you do want to put a 360mm radiator in there, you can stick one in the front, and to be honest with you, a lot of people do end up doing that anyway. It does look quite nice, although again, some people do have that thing where they just want to have a 360mm in the top section, but these days a 280mm or even a 240 does come very close in terms of cooling potential, so it is going to depend what you actually put in the system. There is plenty of room there. Putting the motherboard in was an absolute breeze, and also removing all of those little PCI Express blanking plates, all very easy to do, thumb screws, etc. The whole thing goes together very, very nicely, and as you'd expect, being there is basically 55% of it perforated, the airflow and the actual temperatures are fantastic. Again, it is going to come down to your own personal preferences. If you want the fans running at 100%, then it's going to cool like you're living in the North Pole, but it's going to also sound like you're in an airport. But for me, doing what we do here, doing the live streams, doing the video recordings, with the fans running currently around about 700 RPM, basically is absolutely silent, and background noises are certainly far louder. For my purposes, it is silent, so definitely, if you're looking for a nice quiet PC, which actually is a little bit smaller, and actually I think that looks a little bit nicer, the graphics card in there, if you're looking at a modest graphics card, I think this fills out the build a little bit nicer. There isn't so much wasted space on the right hand side of the motherboard there, and obviously if you want to put something else in there, maybe some form of water cooling equipment, a reservoir, that sort of thing, then potentially that's a really good place to fill that section. Something else I noticed as well, not actually having the brackets at the bottom to mount hard drives was actually a real blessing in this particular instance, because we put that bottom section in and getting to all the wiring and everything was really, really simple. Just plug in that USB connector to the motherboard and that powers the screen, and all the cables are there access. So if I do need to install anything, I've got SATA cables, modex cables, all stashed in behind that panel. And yeah, it's very easy to access and very easy to use. So overall, very, very pleased indeed. And I would consider If you do want something bigger and you want to put a 360mm radiator in the top, then the Ceres 500 is the way to go. The Ceres 500 also does come with more fans as well, so potentially that might be of interest to you. Although at the time of recording, the Ceres 500 in the Snow Edition, you're looking around about £160 at scan.co.uk, whereas this is almost half that price at £89.99 with free shipping as well. So potentially, if you do want to save best part of £70 and you do want a slightly smaller case, but you still want it to have that same look and feel that the Ceres range is known for, then I think this is definitely worth a look. So I should say as well, thanks very much to Thermaltake UK for sending this over for review purposes. Much appreciated, and you never know, maybe there'll be a Ceres 100 or 200 in the pipeline. Who knows? Anyway, let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.